Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another realm-shattering edition of the best darn show on the internet, the Oversharing Show. Today is episode 115, and if you haven't seen last week's episode, I mean, what's wrong with you? Go watch it. Just kidding. If you haven't seen last week's episode, then you wouldn't know that we split that episode into two parts. So this is part two. It's number 23 on our series of the Tao Te Ching. We're going to be covering verses 45 and 46 in this episode. Last episode, though, we did really pretty much cover 45. This one, we talk about 46, but they were so long when we put them together that we decided to break them up. So here is today's quote, which is a quote we've read before. But I figured, why not read it again? I'm sure everybody out there can hear this one more time. Today's quote is the Litany Against Fear from the novel Dune. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. And again, that's a tribute to Frank Herbert, the author of Dune. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next week. Take care. A few moments later. We're back, everybody. You didn't
miss anything.
You didn't miss anything, but we might have looked different. I might not have this headband on the same way. All right, so we're back, and we're going to talk about 46 of the Tao Te Ching. We just finished up 45. And I that verse is so short, but it's got so much in it, right?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that it took us that long to go through it.
I know. You know what it is too? We really haven't been podcasting, so we always have so much to say.
True.
All righty, Rooney. Verse 46, Stephen Mitchell's version.
Why are we doing that today?
I don't know.
Because it says versions at the top, I think. Maybe. And we're like, I'm so distracted.
The first word we see, right, is like version.
So out of it. Yeah.
All right.
All righty, Rue.
Stephen Mitchell, 1988. When a country is in harmony with the Tao, the factories make trucks and tractors. When a country goes counter to the Tao, warheads are stockpiled outside the cities. Hey, United States, you ever read the Tao? Oh, sorry. There is no greater illusion than fear, no greater wrong than preparing to defend yourself. I can't wait to talk about that.
Oh my God.
No greater misfortune than having an enemy. Whoever can see through all fear will always be safe. Wow, that sounds like something I say all the time, huh? Except for the first part. We'll get into it later. All right. I don't want to ruin the pure reading part.
So Dwight Goddard says, limitation of desire. That is the title of this verse. Verse 46. When the world yields to Tao, race horses will be used to haul manure. When the world ignores Tao, war horses are pastured on the public common. There is no sin greater than desire. There is no misfortune greater than discontent. There's no calamity greater than acquisitiveness, which we will define. Therefore, to know extreme contentment is simply to be content. Well, isn't that special?
Isn't that special, yeah, church lady? Exactly. All right, Stan Rosenthal version, moderating desire and ambition. When the way of nature is observed, all things serve their function. Horses drawing carts and pulling at the plow. But when the natural way is not observed, horses are bred for battle and for war. Desire and wanting cause discontent, whilst he who knows sufficiency more easily has what he requires.
Aleister Crowley entitles this verse, The Withdrawal from Ambition. When the Tao beareth away on earth, men put swift horses to night carts. When it is neglected, they breed chargers in the border marches. There is no evil worse than ambition, no misery worse than discontent, no crime greater than greed. Content of mind is peace and satisfaction eternal.
Feels like this verse is so simple, right? It's just,
And it feels like it's so apropos and relevant to today, these days.
oh, 1,000%.
Could it be synchronicity allowed all that time to pass and no recordings for such a time as this?
Yeah, I know, right? It could be quite possible. And I love the use of horses, and it seems like they all kind of use, or did Crowley use horses? I don't know if Crowley did, but they all, I will get into that.
Yes. Well, yes, Crowley used horses.
Because it's such a good metaphor. I guess we could just jump in and read it because, or I mean, jump in to break it down because anybody in any time can understand the allegory of a horse being used, for a tractor. So when a country is in harmony with the Tao, the factories. Oh, I guess they didn't put horses into this one. Oh,
not in this one. Yeah.
Similar though, right? Similar kind of thing. So when a country is in harmony with the Tao, the factories make trucks and tractors. When a country goes counter to the Tao, warheads are stockpiled outside the cities. And it seems like this was written, in our modern time, right? By somebody who was like sick of all the war that was going on. But it's crazy.
Well, Stephen Mitchell wrote it in our time.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay.
But I'm just saying, I know what you mean.
Okay.
The Tao.
I'll rephrase that. Yes, this verse from the Tao, it seems like it could be, and that's the great thing about
it's timeless.
That's why they are timeless. Because you could see that even in the history of the United States, if you just go, well, the history that they tell us anyway, right? But if you go and look at it, how we started in the roots in like people taming the West and all this stuff and homesteaders. I mean, yeah, they were still going to war with the Indians and the native people who were living here and each other and other countries that were, they're scraping out the West. So I guess there was always some kind of warfare going on. But we didn't have this exact military machine like we do today, where you could go anywhere and you can meet somebody that works in the military industrial complex, like where I live, there's a helicopter factory. But no matter where you go, it seems that they always make something, right? And they're stockpiling all these things, and you see evidence of it everywhere you go. You can see like fighter jets flying over once in a while, or military helicopters, or in the big ports, you get to see the ships everywhere. So to me, this verse is perfect because it's just telling you that we're not living in accordance with the Tao in this country, like this country itself, the government. But that's okay. Again, it's not a judgment. It's just letting you know, hey, this is the time you're in. It's like a temperature gauge, right? Like I was saying, a thermometer last week. If you look outside and the factories are making tractors and trucks, you guys are good to go. But if you look outside,
you're in the yeah. If not, you're in the Kali Yuga.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's the Kali Yuga thermometer. We should. Yeah. So let me keep.
It's going. The Yuga thermometer. Yeah, which Yuga are you in?
There you go. The Yugamometer. Yugamometer. All right. So warheads. We talked about that. There's. Do you want to? So this one, maybe we should do it different. We'll go to the next.
Okay.
So the Dwight Goddard.
So Dwight Goddard says, in Limitation of Desire is the title. When the world yields to Tao, race horses will be used to haul manure. When the world ignores Tao, war horses are pastured on the public common. And there you go.
Like the public common part.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Because on the surface level, it's like, yeah, you're gonna see war horses out on the greens, right? Where you usually have fairs, there's gonna be war horses. But what it's saying is it's like the common public, just exactly what I said. Everywhere you go, somebody that works in the military industrial complex, right? Everywhere you go, there's gonna be war horses in all the common areas or whatever. it's going to be a whole different state of mind in the place, right? Not just actions going on. People are going to be living in a totally different way when they have a country that's very bellicose and warlike and belligerent.
Yes, indeed. When the world ignores Tao.
Public common. All right. And the other thing with the horses is it's pretty much it's just like the factory thing, I guess you could say. And then here for Stan Rosenthal, when the way of nature is observed, all things serve their function. Okay, so he's making a statement first before he says it, right? And then horses drawing carts and pulling at the plow. Oops. But when the natural way is not observed, horses are bred for battle and for war.
Plain and simple, like
Plain and
plain as
simple.
day.
Or when you
Plain
live in
as
today's day, you
day.
have race horses and war horses now. Go ahead, Al. You could do the Aleister Crowley. I'm done.
Yeah. Stan Rosenthal entitled his Moderating Desire and Ambition.
Oh yes, okay. I skipped that this
Okay.
time.
Aleister Crowley entitles his The Withdrawal from Ambition. So they both use that word, ambition. Interesting. Um, and just double checking, Dwight Goddard calls it limitation of desire. I'm just trying to see the common thread.
Yeah, I like that.
Um, so Aleister Crowley says, when the Tao beareth away on earth, men put swift horses to night carts. I don't know what he means by night carts, but we'll just keep reading for now. When it is neglected, so when the Tao is neglected, basically, that's what he's saying. They breed chargers in the border marches. That is terminology that I'm not familiar with when it comes to like horses and military stuff. So that's why Brandon has been speaking to this
No, it's
because
a good
I'm
thing. Yeah, exactly. So Chargers, they're talking about war horses, and border marches are any part of your territory where it's close to the border where your enemies might be. So you think of like Lord of the Rings or like even like Wheel of Time, but like Lord of the Rings, a border march would be Osgiliath, like that city that used to be a beautiful city, but then it got infected with evil. And is it Osgiliath? Am I saying this right? Whatever. But it's the place where Frodo meets Faramir, Boromir's brother, Faramir,
okay, Faramir, yeah.
Faramir. Yeah. So it's kind of like an area where there's stuff going on. There's skirmishes, like think of with what's going on in that country on the other side of the Mediterranean. A lot of those bordering countries they would have border marches or whatever, kind of where it's like contested areas or stuff like that. So anytime you have a warlike nation, they're gonna keep their border fortified. Excuse me. So that's basically what they're saying.
Okay, let's see.
Go back to yeah. So I think, and then as far as night court carts, I'm not really sure. I guess we could look up night cart, but I would just imagine, I would extrapolate that he's just talking about like with goods, or maybe at night they can transport goods or something. It's more of like a
Okay.
merchant thing, it seems, than a port.
Yeah, good call. When I read this and I was putting these slides together, when it says when the Tao beareth away on earth, I didn't really know what that meant, so I kind of tried to look it up. The best that I could come up with or find was um this concept of bearing away is to carry off, to transport something away. So there you go.
Uh,
Yes,
all right.
night carts, like you
Yeah.
said, right? It's
Yeah.
like merchant stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Like
So
overnight,
like you
like an overnight cart kind of thing. Like,
yeah, and maybe even you could like translate loosely translate the beareth away as like when the Tao takes off, like when it like becomes a thing again. Um yeah, because then you're back to your just your normal day to day transporting goods and things like that, right? And then when it's neglected, they're just breeding those war horses like crazy.
And stacking them on the border, preparing for
Yeah.
war.
Yeah.
Metallica says to secure peace is to prepare for war.
Mm-hmm.
So be it. Settle the score. To secure pieces, to prepare for war.
What song is that?
It's from the Black Album, which
Yeah, I it's the
"Don't
lyrics
Tread
sound
on Me" or
familiar.
something. I think "Don't
Huh?
Tread on Me," "Don't Tread on Me."
Oh,
Maybe
might
sounded
be.
like "Don't Tread on Me." Dun, 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 dun. I mean, I'm not a
Okay.
real fan of anything after "And Justice for All," but it's cool. That was a fun song. But anyway, enough Metallica. I don't
Yeah,
want
I didn't I
to.
only knew yeah, just some of that, some of those
Oh,
two
okay.
albums, I'm guessing, because I don't really remember. I just know the songs, some of the songs.
Yeah, they changed a lot at the Black Album, kind of. But what are you going to do? Everybody changes and adapts. Let's see. They're adapting to their market. Good for Metallica. All right, I'm gonna. Yeah, I like that. When the world. No, wait. Sorry. When the Tao beareth away on Earth. Yeah, so you're like you said exactly takes off. I like that. Like it gets popular, right?
Yeah, yeah. It
It's the
becomes a
new style.
thing.
Yeah, it becomes
It's the new thing.
a trend. All right, I'm gonna read part two here from Stephen Mitchell. There is no greater illusion than fear, no greater wrong than preparing to defend yourself. All right, so we'll just talk about that part. So obviously there's no greater illusion than fear. We've covered that a bunch on here, and that's so true, right? It's that little voice in your head talking to you, telling you, like we said earlier in the episode, it's that fear. So and it's just a great illusion. It really is
It
because
is.
there's nothing there. You're
Right.
yourself back. Um, and then no greater wrong than preparing to defend yourself.
Oh shit, man. We could talk for a little bit on that. Just a little bit on that one alone.
Yeah, we really could. And I'll say the most simplest form of that, I think, is if you're preparing to defend yourself, you're not in the present moment reading what's exactly going on.
You're not crossing your bridge when you get there.
Yeah, because
You're
you don't
trying to cross the bridge now.
exactly. You're skipping steps. You're not even being attacked yet, and you're acting warlike or whatever, or you're building up arms. You're putting all these chargers on your border marches, if you will. And I think that's what they're
It's
trying
just
to
a
think.
game. We're talking about a little game, you guys.
Yeah.
Like a
Go. Chess.
board game.
Yeah. And I think that it's there's nothing wrong. Of course, we always talk about self-defense and being ready to defend yourself and being prepared. But I think that's not what they're talking about here. I think they're more talking about getting lost in the preparation to defend yourself. When the preparation to defend yourself actually becomes your main goal in life, and that's what you're focused on, and you're always worried that you're going to go to war, and you always have this fear. Because I feel like preparation to defend yourself comes out of fear, or could come out of fear, in the way that they're speaking. Of course. Of course, there's nothing wrong with having a little knowledge of how to defend yourself if you need to in the situation, or having the proper tools to defend yourself. But I feel like focusing on it and making it the main, you know,
Deal, main thing.
yeah, like the main theme of your life. Yeah, something like that, I guess, would be the wrong thing. So,
Yeah. Um, this is like so timely because I just sent something to Brandon yesterday about this topic and I put these slides together like weeks ago because I thought we were going to cover this weeks ago and then we didn't record. Um,
and
but
life happened.
yeah, then life happened and then I read some books. I did some things and it's like totally synced to what I was reading yesterday. So I was reading the Esh sorry, Eknath Eshwaran's version or the commentary of the Bhagavad Gita. And I the first time I went through this book was in audiobook form. So now I'm kind of just reading through it through the ebook format. And he's talking about um, the perspective of war, like the morality of war. And basically there's like two perspectives. Like um number one, it's like it's permissible in certain cases because of the literal interpretation of the text. So like people taking it literally of Arjuna fighting his cousins and his family in a war. Um, some people are like, yeah, that's fine. That's his dharma. He has to do that. That's part of his calling or whatever. And then there's this other view of like it's allegory. I mean, it's no, it's never permissible. You should never go to war. You should never fight or kill people or whatever, right?
Or like the pacifist mindset,
For
right?
any reason. Yeah, the pacifist view,
Yep.
right? Do nothing. Just let people walk all over you. Um, because it's an allegory. They're just talking about like the spiritual, you know. So you have those two views, right? But what about the middle path? Like they don't talk about there's another potential view of this, right? Could it be?
Could it be?
Right? And it's like really synced up to some of the stuff I've been reading too, because I was reading this book by Leo Tolstoy as well called, I think it's called The Kingdom of God is Within You. I think it's The Kingdom of God. And I had no idea that I've said this a few times in different episodes, but I had no idea this book was going to be talking about this because I was like, oh, the kingdom of God was within you. I thought it was going to be like kind of like Bill Donahue style stuff, but it was actually about like nonviolence and non-resistance and like what Jesus talks about and how some people will give, all these like reasons, all these excuses for why it's okay to go to war and why it's okay to kill people. Um, and I mean, I see Leo Tolstoy's viewpoint because like I kind of resonate with it myself too. But I also see the other perspective. And it's interesting because our friend Joe just sent a message into our chat like a day or two ago um, with this like audio clip of David R. Hawkins talking about passivity versus what did he call it, Brandon?
Um,
It was like I'll just look it up real quick.
yeah, I don't remember.
It was
Good stuff though.
just um the difference between letting go and passivity. So like
That's it, yes.
passivity versus letting go.
That's a synchronicity too, because earlier in the episode I was talking about that, right? About
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead though.
Yeah. Yeah. So like it's just all viewpoints to look at and you know pick the one that works for you, but you know I'm the type of person that I can see both sides. I'm like that's my Libra thing, and I don't know if it's what else it's related to, but I can be like, yeah, I get what Leo Tolstoy is saying. Like, yeah, you shouldn't kill people. Like, you should never want to kill like, have any reason to kill somebody. But, like, you know, what if, let's just say, what if in all the lifetimes that we've lived, we've had to experience something like this because you don't know anything until you experience it. So, it, you can't look at it as like a bad evil thing, but just as a fact, as a thing that happens. And some people just need to do that. They need to experience that. They need to experience what it is to be at war, to be in a war, to be a soldier, to be, on the front lines or whatever. Maybe I've done that before. I don't know. Um, and the concept that David R. Hawkins talks about as well. I think I want to listen to that again because he kind of explains a little bit of like the passivity is not. I would say like Brandon talks about the new age stuff. Like I would say the passivity would be like the new age style of looking at it.
Hmm.
Like, oh no, we should never do that because, you know, XYZ. Like David R. Hawkins is like, if you're lying down in front of a bulldozer, I don't remember if that's exactly the phrase, but he's like, it's gonna run you over.
Yeah.
Like, like you're gonna get killed. And then that's not the point either. Like, so there has to be like some middle ground now. So the way that Brandon has talked about it before, we talk about it on the show a lot, is this concept of like doing something with a pure heart. Like we haven't said it before like that, but with a pure heart by saying, I I don't like that you're coming at me with this aggression and you're gonna point a gun at me or you're gonna stab me or whatever. Um, but I will defend myself if I have to. And if that means that you will perish as a result, I really am sorry about that. I don't hate you. It's just that I will do my due diligence to take care of myself and protect myself. So that's kind of how I see all this. It's like it's very synchronistic to all the stuff that I've been reading and looking at. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing how it all lines up. And yeah, we've talked about this a lot about war. And I mean, I think the real answer is it's too nuanced to answer. I think it's a case by case basis,
It is.
obviously, and I'm sure you agree, Jay. But more, I think a defensive war, is definitely more justifiable in most cases than an offensive
Then an
war.
often right.
But even if you're just talking about defending your way of life and where you're living and all that stuff, that's kind of what David R. Hawkins was saying too. He's like, sometimes you got to stand up. And we say that a lot too. We're always talking about going with the flow, but sometimes you have to stand up and go against the current for whatever reason. But
Like the things that happened during the nonsense of 2020.
exactly.
Like I think passivity would have I think passivity would have just given in, right? And
Yeah,
done whatever everybody was doing and just been like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And hey, if that's where you were, that's fine. It's no judgment. It's just that it is a choice. And if you chose to be passive at that moment, hey, that's where you were. I mean, people were going through so many things in 2020. It was an insane year. And, maybe that wasn't their fight to fight that moment. But for some of us, it was a very eye-opening year, and that gave us like courage and strength to stand up for what we thought was the right thing to do. And for me, that was to show my smiling face wherever I went.
and now all this stuff comes out. It's great. All the stuff we knew back then is all finally coming out. Well, I don't know if it really is, but from what I
Well,
see,
they say it's coming out, and then, but you still can't really talk much about it because
yeah.
your videos still might, and
What
you know,
are you gonna do? But yeah, I think we nailed it there with that verse. Like we said, all this stuff is nuance. You can't just read it and expect to understand it or argue with it. You can't just read it and argue with it because you don't agree with it because you might not be interpreting it correctly, right? And that's why everybody has their own kind of way to do it. And we're not even sitting here telling people not to go to war or to go to war. We're just telling you that,
it's your choice, and
yeah,
it's nuanced, so it's based on your intentions and we're not here to judge you for that.
exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right, let's bring up the next part of this.
But I love that part of the verse.
Oh yeah.
Preparing to defend yourself.
Yeah, because he doesn't say there's no greater wrong than defending yourself, right? It's just the preparing.
I
And
like that. Thank you for pointing that out.
and I think, well, people, and that's why we did all that explaining, because it seems so much like they're like, oh, what do you mean? So then you shouldn't have any weapons or any way to defend yourself. And it's like, no, I think they're talking about like a mindset too, also. Like you're always constantly in this mindset and prepared to defend yourself. And if you take this as a one-on-one action too, if it's just a one-on-one confrontation or a interaction that you're going to have, if you go into it looking that you're prepared to defend yourself, it's not good too,
Could it,
because you already have this like combative stance or
and
whatever.
could it be like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like
Yeah.
you imagine it so and you practice it so it's you're manifesting it. You're bringing it about, you know.
Yeah, it's a
Just
fine
like we
line,
talked
right?
about, in previous episodes when we talked about people that were like practicing defending themselves if they got stopped by a peace officer on the road.
Yep. With all the things they had to say and do and memorize. Yeah, we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about that in the older episodes. That was great. And then we were just like, could it be that memorizing all that stuff is going to put you in that situation?
Right,
Like,
right. Practicing it and, repeating it over and over to yourself. This is what I need to say. It, I, I noticed that when people were doing that, then it would happen to them. I took the information and I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm not saying I'm better for it or anything like that. But I also like don't like to dwell on things either. So it just didn't happen that I dwelled on it. And then, but I'm not gonna, continue to speak about it because
I
there's no point in doing that either. So
hear you. I think the lovely people get it. All right, I'm going to yes, but it is. I mean, it does deserve a lot of explanation because people are going to read that line and be like, "I hate the Tao." Like, no. All right, so no greater misfortune than having an enemy. Whoever can
mm.
see through all fear will always be safe. And I mean,
Oh
stuff we talk
snap.
about all the time. No greater misfortune than having an enemy, because you don't have to have an enemy. And I think what they mean in this verse is by choosing to have an enemy. Kind of.
Capybara Club.
Yeah, Capybara Club, exactly. Capybara
How do we
Club.
how do we do that?
So, all right, you want to read it? I was talking about that with my lovely fiance Elizabeth. I'm like, I'm a capybara. You can't change my nature. Like,
I can't change my spots.
can't change my spots. I'm like, that's just how I do it. Don't worry though, I have
Yeah,
fangs.
I love that. Huh?
I have fangs and claws. I'm a capybara that has fangs and claws if he needs them though.
Yeah. They come out.
Yeah.
Um, I love that last line though. Whoever can see through all fear will always be safe. I freaking love that.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Because the fear is not the actual danger, right? They're not talking about a dangerous situation. They're talking about your focus on a future event, something that's going to happen, and you are afraid that you could get hurt or something wrong can happen. So if you could see through that, then you're safe. But if not, could it be that your own steps in order to try to prevent this terrible thing you're scared of happening will actually bring you to that thing happening? It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole time travel thing. Like if you find out something and
Yeah,
then you like, oh, go change this one little thing in the past, and then it could affect things differently. And you think that, oh, if I just change that one thing, it'll work. Everything will be fine. But it
exactly.
doesn't work like that.
Might not be though. It probably won't be. You'll probably mess everything up and then end up having to fix it like they do in the movies. All
Mm-hmm.
right, you want to read the Dwight Goddard bottom part?
Yeah. So Dwight Goddard, verse 46, the second half. There is no sin greater than desire. There is no misfortune greater than discontent. There is no calamity greater than acquisitiveness. I'll define that in a second. Therefore, to know extreme contentment is simply to be content. Now, this one is so vastly different from Stephen Mitchell's.
Yeah.
Because Stephen Mitchell's talking about an illusion of fear, and Dwight Goddard is talking about a sin of desire. Now, how are those alike? That's interesting. So, sin is, the quote definition of sin in like Christian movements or whatever is to miss the mark. You're not hitting the target. You're missing the target. Um, I think of sin as escapism, basically. Um, but okay, so here is saying no sin greater than desire. Desire is, I think when you look at it from an Eastern perspective, I think, isn't desire related to karma or something like that?
Yeah. And I would say when you break it down to its essence, desire is your ego, you just wanting things to be a different way than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And also when they talk about desire, they talk about pleasuring your senses. Like you have these desires to pleasure your senses. And this really means to me, and I love it, where he's like, there's no sin greater than desire. Basically, desire is you're doubting God, you're doubting the plan because you want something that's not meant for you, kind of thing. And again, you could go ahead and you could do all this stuff and you can engage in all the escapism and fulfill every sense, pleasure, desire that you have. That's what this realm is for until you get sick of it, until it's not enough for you. And then when it's not enough, you read the Tao and you see that there's no greater sin than desire. It's just like thinking the grass is greener on the other side. And this isn't a sin where if you do it, you're going to go to hell. That's not like, it's more like Sharon said, missing the mark. So you can't miss the mark anymore than if you desire, like, so if you have a desire of something like that, and it's natural, everybody has desires. So what do we want to do? We want to aim better. It's just like if you're at a range or a archery range, you want to get closer to the target each time. So a sin is like when you miss the mark, and then you can adjust properly. What you would do is you would adjust your sights or adjust for the windage or why did I miss? Go through the steps again and take the shot again. But what happens with us is we sin and then we have denial, like, no, I didn't take that shot. That wasn't me that took that shot. Or we're like, oh, why did I take that shot? That was the worst thing I could have done. I totally missed. It's like, so that's all the suffering that we go through. And it could be avoided if we just realize that we didn't have to try to pleasure every desire or try to go after every desire and get it met, fulfilled. If we realize that they're just thoughts, just like we were talking about with meditation earlier. Any desire is just a thought. And going back, it's like the theme for this whole thing really is escapism. We've been talking about it a lot on this episode, but like Sharon said earlier, some people can't be in a room where there's just quiet or they can't be by themselves. And I think it's because that's when that stuff starts to come up. You start to have these desires, and then you start to think about like why you have these desires, and it's could be too painful. Maybe it's stuff you went through when you were younger, abandonment issues, whatever it is. And so then instead of facing that, it's easier to engage in escapism and distract yourself. But then when you've had enough of that, there comes a point in your life sometimes when you've had enough of that and you want to go the other way. And that's kind of what they're talking about here. And then after, he goes on to say, there's no misfortune greater than discontent. And discontent is really just a lack of gratitude. You're not
Absolutely.
grateful because everybody has things to be grateful here. If you're here and you're breathing, you have two arms, two legs. I mean, even, but what I'm saying, most people, sorry, paraplegic, or more coffee from
And other people who have lost limbs.
but even people who are in that situation have other things to be thankful for too.
Exactly.
Like
if they lost legs, at least they have arms.
Yeah. That,
If
yeah.
they're blind, at least they can hear. Or if, whatever.
And
There's
whatever
always something to
happens,
be
and
great.
that's the thing, we're talking about all these extremes, and it's funny because mostly people get tripped up by the little things. Oh, you know, I ordered food and I got the wrong thing, or I got a flat tire, or oh no, I said that twice. I mean, or whatever it is, right? So you could have that situation happen to you and then be all upset and spiral, or we could be like, look for the grateful things in life. What could I be grateful? Maybe you'll
Yeah,
meet the tow truck driver and he'll be a cool guy, and you have a new friend if you need to fix a car or something, or who knows, like, right?
absolutely. Just for clarification, I was thinking of the wrong word, so I looked it up. Kama, kama is desire, selfish desire. In like, I guess Hinduism or
Yeah, probably
whatever.
Hinduism.
Um, like think of Kama Sutra,
Uh,
right?
gotcha.
I mean, I don't know what sutra means, but kama means desire. Um,
Desire.
so anyway, on to the next little part of the Dwight Goddard. He says, there is no calamity greater than, and I'm gonna guess it's pronounced acquisitiveness. Um, but I looked this up and it is like the eagerness to own and collect things, acquisitive, like acquiring things, right? So
Oh,
the eagerness to acquire
oh,
or collect
yeah.
things, desiring things, right? Wanting,
I could speak from personal experience here.
yeah, the desire of possession. So that's what that is. So it's basically restating it with different words, but basically saying the same thing, I think.
Yeah, totally. And it meant, I'm just gonna scroll here and then turn off so we'll be in the right spot. That whole thing about no greater calamity than acquirativeness or quivis, wanting to acquire things, that's so huge because you just think of like an animal, right? Like if you're gonna feed a dog or a cat, like how they act right before you feed them and you put the food down. There's nothing else that they're focused on. Now they're eating, so that's different, but I felt that same way in my life with things. I remember even when I used to collect baseball cards and I had this book. It was like a price guide. It would show all the prices of different, and I would look up cards that I wanted, and I'd be like, "Oh man, I want this card so bad." And I'd be like sitting there trying to do homework, and I wouldn't even be able to get the homework done or focus on anything else because I would just focus on these cards that I wanted so bad, and I would like plot and scheme and figure out how to get it. And it was like I wasn't enough unless I had this baseball card. And then when I got that card, there's like a second, like Ramdas says, there's like this second of enoughness, like, oh, like I'm enough. And then a few minutes later, it's like, all right, now what? Now I need a coffee. Got to drink the coffee. After that, I'm gonna have a smoke, and then after that, I'm gonna go. Like
Exactly. I love how Ram Dass talks about this topic of
yeah,
desire because he nails it.
he really does.
I'm glad you reminded me of that because he I was gonna mention him earlier and I
Oh,
forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, he talks about this topic um a
it's
lot.
so true. And again, there's nothing wrong with it, but when you get sick of it, and if you're at that point where you're feeling like whatever it is you're going after and you're accomplishing, it's not enough. Like look at wealthy people. A lot of wealthy people that they just buy things. Like they'll buy a boat, they'll buy this. They think it'll make their life better. When the simple thing is, it's just to make your life better, to end the suffering. You just have to look inside and face all these things. And some people will die before they face those things. Like they'll die of an addiction or whatever. And, this really is the hardest work. But if you come at it piece by piece, like we're saying in the beginning, one step at a time, it falls in place and it makes sense to you. Like I can't explain why I have a different worldview than I did a few years ago about things. But I would just say like one step at a time, this made sense and that made sense and this made sense. And I got to a point and I was like, well, what I was doing isn't working for me anymore. So now I got to do this. And it really is just one step at a time. I think they just get overwhelmed because it seems like it's going to be way too much. And their life right now is just terrible. Sometimes we get people in the chat too that have issues and they're talking about them, or sometimes you meet people in real life, and they are trying to incorporate what we talk about. Um, but it's like they're missing it just a little bit, you know. And I think that's really what it is. It's the not taking things personally. It's the realizing that this whole existence isn't just about you. And then when you do that and you let it go and it's okay that it's not about you, then you find out that it really is all about you, just in a different way. You know what I mean? You're like, oh,
Different perspectives. It's so
yeah,
nuanced.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up earlier that it was me being overwhelmed with not having an outlet for a couple weeks
yeah.
because I really I'm really resonating with that right now
It
because
hit you.
yeah, it just hit me like I, snowball of everything, right? And not being able to like have an outlet and let off steam this way in a very like um
Healthy way, right?
healthy way because I'm not ranting or
Constructive.
yeah, and I'm not upset and I'm not angry or whatever. Um and because I wasn't able to do that for, several reasons.
Oh, and one other thing I'll add too, and you have a receptive audience because remember when we were talking last week about projectors, how we just talked? That happened to me again. I'm like, all right, I guess
Yeah.
no one heard me. I'm like, I'm a 6'5" giant with his hair. Nobody heard what I said. Okay, see
Yeah.
you later. I'm gonna add that into my. I swear I could talk about that on stage. But anyway, yeah, that's because we have a nice fan base, you know, friends of ours that appreciate our point of view, and maybe they're just not the podcasting type, so they come and hang out and add to the conversation.
Yeah.
And because we have that healthy way of expressing it, you know, it's part of that trivium process. I say it all the time. You have input, processing, and output. You have to do the output part, or else you'll be at the fucking supermarket arguing about the moon with people. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, I know. I've because the thing I was going to say with Sharon, so Sharon started podcasting, and she basically has been doing it the whole time since she started. And I've done it, and I've had gaps in between. And I never realized it, but now I'm starting to realize that when there are those gaps happen, that's when I start to get more argumentative with people at the grocery store. No, I don't really do that, but you know what I mean? It's more like, but when I could just come on here and express my viewpoint and it's well received, and even if it's not, that's fine, but I get to express it. And then later when I'm in other parts of my life and I'm talking to people, I could just talk about what's going on in the situation. I don't have to worry about bringing up the moon or whatever, unless they bring it up. And then I could just refer them to my podcast or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And this is our outlet. It doesn't mean it's yours. Some people have art forms, some people paint or draw or
make
um
movies.
zentangle, or
Yeah.
make or do other things that are that's their creative outlet. And um or some people write, some people blog. I used to try to blog, but I think the podcasting is much simpler for me because blogging I'd have to edit so much before I felt it was like good enough to publish. And then I was like, you know, that took a long time. So,
So
and
if you're a
sometimes
grammar
too,
Nazi.
yeah, sometimes too journaling for yourself. Like it doesn't have to be anything that you'll send or share with anybody, but it's for you. And it's just to journal out your thoughts and what's going on at the moment. And you can always refer back to it later. And you might even have forgotten what you wrote. You might come back to it later and find some synchronicity in there and be like, holy smokes, I forgot about this. I forgot this happened.
And you might even be
Um,
able to write a book out of those notes later on in the future one day. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you never know. A friend of mine did that. He used to just write this article every week about comedy, just giving people who were like new or like at the level of like open mic and stuff, and just like working comedian stuff or whatever. But he would just give them advice once a week. He wrote it, and then like after 2 years, he just put it all together into a book. You know, so and that wasn't his intention. You really never know what you're going to start. Any kind of creative outlet, even if it's just for yourself, it really does. because that's what we're here to do. Could it be is to create? So if you're not creating a reality that you're thankful for and that you're happy to live, then you're going to be creating a reality for somebody else, and you're going to be part of that, and it's going to lead to all this escapism and all these ways to harm yourself, self harm, like drugs or alcohol or whatever.
Yeah.
Excess, obviously in moderation, we always talk about, but yeah.
Yeah. And it goes back to that last line from Dwight Goddard about knowing extreme contentment is simply to be content. Just be grateful. That's true contentment.
Yeah. Screenshot. I'm screenshotting on the Oversharing show. All right, so we were at
The second part.
uh second part for Stan Rosenthal.
Yeah.
All right, yes. Desire and wanting cause discontent. Here we are, everybody. Whilst he knows okay, I'm gonna here we go. One, two, three, action. Desire and wanting cause discontent, whilst he who knows sufficiency more easily has what he requires. And this is we said it when we read it first. I mean, you can't say it any really more simply than this. That's what I love about Stan Rosenthal. Um, this is it. It's the key. The desire and the wanting is the discontent.
Mm-hmm.
And this person, he who knows sufficiency more easily. So this person who's more content, who is more grateful, they have what they need. They have what they require. They're good to go. They
Mm-hmm.
don't need all the,
Fluff.
yeah, all the baubles and the things. And I got to get this one, and this one comes out next week, and I got to trust me. I've been there. Like
Yeah,
I did.
me too. Back
So
when
even with
like phones
crystals,
were,
that's the
oh,
thing, right?
oh,
Like
crystals. Yeah.
baubles, like anything, any material thing, even if it's something that's in the realm
A
of,
new tarot deck.
yeah, tarot deck. I mean, I have so many tarot. So that's the thing, but it's okay, right? We say this as long as we recognize what we're doing and we realize it's all, perfect part of the plan kind of thing. But um, that's why I don't think we are supposed to be quote unquote perfect and not sin at all in this incarnation. That's another thing that Owen was saying in that little clip. It's like, we're supposed to just aim for it as much as we can. Because when you have the idea that you're supposed to be perfect, anytime you miss the mark, it's gonna lead to suffering, right? I know he didn't say
Yeah.
that specifically, but that's kind of those are my words. So
And I think that we're here for those lessons, for learning, so if we're still here, there's a reason why we're still here. There's must be more to learn and more to experience. Um, Now people like, you know, Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, if they existed as beings here. And even people like Ram Dass's Maharaji, people like them, maybe they've learned like 99.999% of what they need to learn this lifetime. And they're just helping other people along. Um,
yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
maybe it's a reason they exist just as a statement to the Dharma, like because we don't know how this reality works exactly. We just have an idea. We're touching this elephant in a dark room.
Yeah.
So I would say if I'm touching the elephant, it's like perhaps that those beings have to come to kind of because if we have
Be
people
an
that are like
example.
pure evil or whatever so bad, then you need someone also to be an example to show people every once in a while that hey, yeah, it's tough, but somebody you can do it. This is the target, and the target, all he does is say, "Don't worry about it. Just try your best. Just keep doing it." Love,
Yeah.
like what
And
did Maharaji said, "Love everybody and tell the truth." Like
yes. Yes. Um, and Jesus said, greater works than these shall ye do. Like, so he was like encouraging people, like, you can do the things that I do, quote, miraculous things or whatever, cities or whatever they are, um, as an encouragement. And he wasn't saying he was better than you or anything like that. So, yeah. Sorry, I forgot what I was going to say about that,
No,
but
it's all right. We're talking about Jesus. We get excited.
I know.
Jesus. Yeah, that's exactly though. That's the way, right? And it's not for us to prove, right? I don't think it's up to us to prove whether somebody like that existed or could exist or was a real person. That I think you're missing the mark there again. That's another way to get lost in the weeds. It's more about your actions and what you're doing every day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
really, at the end of the day, we're not telling people what's going to get them into heaven or keep them out of hell or whatever. We're just trying, like we say at the end of the show, we're not trying to tell you how to live. We're just trying to, how to tell you how to live without a little less suffering, maybe. Could it be this is what worked for us and other people before us that we read and heard about? So we're doing it and it's working in our lives. So, hey, guys, why don't you try this? Because the other stuff you're trying doesn't seem to be working. Because I see on Facebook, well, I see on Instagram posting all this stuff or, whatever it is. Yeah, so that's all.
Mm.
Just be grateful. Be grateful. Be grateful that
Yes.
you know Sharon and Brandon and how amazing they are. All right. Should we do I did it again. Skipped up. Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. Aleister Crowley, verse 46, the last half says, "There's no evil worse than ambition, no misery worse than discontent, no crime greater than greed. Content of mind is peace and satisfaction eternal." And there you have the discontent again. Um, Ambition is like that desire, right?
Yeah. Ambition does to intuition what a weevil does in the granary. That's what I think
Say
Ramdas
that again.
quoted somebody who said that. And
Oh,
it's, again, these things people say, oh, you don't want to have ambition and be like a successful person. And that's not obviously what we're saying. What we're saying is your own little ego's ambition. You little person, whoever you are, you have this desire to be whatever it is and you have ambitions to do it. But it seems like the world's not reciprocating that. You're not getting what you want. So that's where you're getting held down because you're trying to go against God
the
or whatever,
Woiled.
the world in that way. And again, we're so nuanced, but sometimes, yes, hard work and all these things are, and you have to overcome obstacles in these things. But this is more about feeling your intuition and going along with the feeling that you have inside. And as you do
Yeah,
it, like things line up
which
that way.
reminds me of that video that you were talking about last week, Aaron Abkey and that guy Kyle that he had on his show. And they were talking about, basically it was very Tao what they were talking about. They were talking about, doing, non-doing type stuff, woo way. Because the topic was about effort isn't working anymore, and what did we just talk about right now? Ambition. That's the effort part. It's about like letting go and letting it happen in a natural way, versus like push and try harder and give it all you got and give it all you got. Um, what if that's what if that's detrimental and you're just pushing in the direction that God's trying to tell you, no, it's not that way. It's different than that.
I feel like what happens is when that's the case, these things start happening to this person where, like, say we have a fictional person, right? They're trying so hard to go in one direction, and they're going against like their intuition and stuff, but maybe it's what they think they should do. I think I should get a job and just work and save money. It's the right thing to do. But say they're an artist, so they're going to put their head down and try it, but all of these things are going to keep happening to them. They're going to be like, woe is me. Why do I have such a bad luck? Why am I having such a bad day? And it could get to a point where they're like, finally, they start to see these bad things that happen as synchronicities and they follow them. And then they start to follow their intuition more. So what happens is it's like a function of this realm, and it's not even a bad thing. People look at it as it's such a terrible thing. It's a good thing. It's like the bumpers when you're playing, when you're bowling, when you're playing bowling. When you ever go play bowling, you ever go bowling, you ever play bowling, when you go bowling and you can put out those bumpers so your ball doesn't go in the gutter. That's what this realm is doing. The bumper is just like a smack. It's like a flat tire or someone getting mad at you or you just got robbed or whatever, but that's what it is. It's pushing you back in the way you should go. But we look at these things as they're obstacles and they're terrible and they're so bad and woe is me. And now some people, it ruins their whole life when something bad happens to them. But if you have this mindset of, oh, thank you, universe, thank you for giving me the flat tire. I knew I wasn't supposed to be there at this time. There's something terrible is definitely going to happen to me. And it goes back to what I said. Once you start having that feeling and you could get in that, and again, I'm not there, but when you could get in that situation everywhere in
Zone.
life,
Yeah.
this realm, there's no need for you to be here anymore, it would seem. You know, maybe that's what happens. And it sounds simple, but go try to hang out with your family for the weekend. You know what I mean? Like we're all like, oh yeah,
Enlightened.
I'm so enlightened, but then you got to go hang out with your family. You're like, oh fuck. But that's why I think we're born with these people because a lot of these, um, they know how to. They're involved in similar patterns because we're born that way. So you could trigger each other, but that's where the real work can be done as well. So you get to a point where then you're okay to go back and hang out with your family sometimes. And then sometimes you need some distance. It's all a give and take, ebb and flow. But I feel like if you weren't supposed to make mistakes here, then the minute you did, you would probably just disappear or you would die or whatever. Like the fact that you can make multiple mistakes and multiple mistakes and keep making mistakes for years and years and years. And then one day you finally figure it out and everything turns around. That tells me that this is the place to make mistakes. Maybe where we're going next, we can't make mistakes. Maybe when we're totally energy and we're not having this physical illusion of a world, it's okay. But when we're in that other place, maybe we need to be on top of our game. So that's where we're getting ready for. That's all. And if you look at it that way, you'll be watching the Oversharing show. Yeah, but I was going to try to think of a witty commercial way to break into. But yeah, that's really what it comes down to. It sounds simple. It's probably the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it doesn't have to be. Don't you guys want to try it?
Just let go.
Yeah, it really letting go and acceptance. Accept it, let go. Laughter. I laugh all the time when I'm not supposed to. I get in trouble for laughing sometimes. But honestly, I can't help it because I see like you with the ice, like the refrigerator, right? Like where the refrigerator broke. If I was in a situation like that, I might just start laughing. And people are like, what the hell? I'm like, of course. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, of course this just happened right now. I did back when I lived in this apartment that I used to live in. I went to reach for inside the fridge. I went to reach for a jar of olives and it fell on the floor and broke and all the olives were strewn everywhere. There was glass, there was olive juice everywhere. And I think I may have laughed. I was just like, that's just great right now. Like, thank you. I was like, I guess I'm cleaning this up now.
exactly. And that's that whole mindset now where when things happen, instead of saying, oh, this happened to me, you're like, oh, this is the universe trying to hook me up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for I had to learn this lesson the hard way, but you know what? You're right. And it's just you're a different person. When you have that point of view, you're a different person. You know what happens? Your hair starts to grow. You start to look like you're younger when you're older. You know what I mean? Like,
Don't look younger.
I
I
do.
do.
I do. Yeah. So
That's
next week's
Beetlejuice.
episode. So this week, yeah, because I'm gonna be in this realm for 48 years coming up soon. So
Pretty soon.
second day in July, and I mean, look at me, guys. I don't look at day past. I don't know, but no one ever believes me. And it's funny because when I talk about it, so certain people aren't happy about it, but it's fine. What are you gonna do?
Certain people are.
Well, nobody that no one, not like anyone in my,
People I know. Okay.
just like comedians that I know and stuff, they're always like, oh,
Oh.
hey, must be nice or whatever.
Eh.
And I'm like, it's great. Try it,
You're
man.
like, listen to my show. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Check out my show. No, it's all fun. It's all fun. But yeah. I think that's it though. Is there anything
Well, we
else you
have the
want
last
to?
of that little bit.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Let's do that. Hang on. I think we.
Yeah. So, I think that was ambition. No misery worse than discontent. We've talked about that, being grateful. No crime greater than greed. I mean, that's very similar to the desire and wanting things that, you know, you don't have. And so then it perpetuates this like feeling of lack. So you just, bring it upon yourself. Um, and the final little sentence here is content of mind is peace and satisfaction eternal. And that to me is being grateful. Gratitude is peace of mind.
And guess who that's up to? It's up to you, dear listener, watcher, dear viewer. You get to decide if you're content. Nobody else. It's
Can do that
all
for
you,
you.
no matter what you have or don't have. You get to decide. You get to look at life and say, I want to be grateful for these things. I'm sick of being miserable of all this stuff that happens. I want to be grateful and have
Grateful.
less misery. And then you tune into the Over Sharon show and send us all your money and swear your firstborn children to us. No, I'm just kidding.
Become an overshareite.
We're gonna
Check.
take your firstborn child and we're gonna start a new race of awesome people. No, I'm just kidding. No, guys, don't put us on a pedestal. Listen, we're just a couple of, slobs, just like everyone else is feeling our way
Hey,
around.
I'm not a slob.
Oh, I meant like, around us is like these poor slob, like, but yeah, we're just, oh, it's
So funny.
4:44 in 40 seconds,
Oh,
4:44 in
144 right
44 seconds.
there.
Boom. Perfect. All right. That's a good time for us to
Nice.
wrap this
That's
up. I got some things I
perfect.
got to do anyway. So go to morelawsmoreproblems.com, everybody. Click on the Over Sharon tab for all your Over Sharon wants, needs, and desires. You can donate currency to us there. Yes, you can donate money there. You can other forms of currency like love and attention you can give us. And you can do that by subscribing to the Brandon Bonanza channel. We also are in podcast form through Podbean, but you can catch us in all the different podcast places like iTunes and Spotify and wherever they're listening to great podcasts these days. But like we said, subscribe, hang out here on Thursdays when we premiere or go live. That's really what we're looking for. That's the currency we're looking for. Is your attention and share it around. Get this underground Over Sharon really going. I don't know what else we want to say, but I guess I could say, unless you have anything else you wanted to add, I didn't mean to just like jump in and start ending the show.
Oh no, I think that was it.
All right.
Good,
Yeah. Good one
good,
today.
good
But it's good to be
talk.
back
Yeah.
at the Dow. Every time I talk about the Dow, and now I'm going to see this chiropractor in a little bit, who I like, really nice guy. I've talked about him before. You just pay whatever you want. You just put money in a box. Like he's totally a non, he is not trying to sell you anything. He just straightens you out and has a good conversation. And he went through like the whole new age thing and he's back into Christianity, but he has a more open view of it. So we always have like crazy conversations when I go there.
Nice.
It's going to be fun. All right. So what do we say to the good people, Sharon? Oh, wait, hang on. Shout out to the chat. How did I do?
Yes.
Thank you
Yes.
guys so much for hanging out here all the way to the end. We love you guys. You're the reason why we're here. You're the reason why our mental
For the season
reason
of
for
the
this.
Oversharing show.
You're the reason for the season of the Oba Sharon show, which is all year round. Is the season for the we're always in season on the Oba Sharon show here. Um, yeah. So in the chat, thank you guys so much. You bring our level of mental health up just this much more by interacting and hanging out with us. What we were talking about earlier, you really keep us sane for listening to our expressions. Thank you guys.
Yes, thank
And
you.
I thought there was something else I was going to say, but what I could say for next week. What do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start oversharing.
then you totally stop being a Karen. And remember, everybody, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
But just maybe how to live in such a way that you express yourself in a way that is more like the Tao, perhaps.
There you go. More in accordance,
Yeah, more in accordance
more in
with the Tao.
line with
Living
the
your
way.
life more in accordance with the Tao.
That's right. And until we see you guys next week, keep living the way. We'll see you. Take care. Bye. Oh, I almost ended the meeting. That's funny. Hang on. I gotta hit the stop. All right. Bye.